Something to remember, by the way, while the media is, hyper focusing on college campus panic again, is that the genocide is continuing. New York City, Columbia University. I talked about it a little bit, but we got Columbia conceding to the Trump administration to basically beg their way out of this ridiculous hurdle that the Trump administration has set in front of them with ridiculous claims of anti-Semitism that seemingly the Columbia University also agrees with, in an effort to get back their grants.
Columbia University in New York has reached a $200 million settlement with the Trump administration in connection with the recent campus protests there, and claims the university didn't do enough to stop the harassment of Jewish students. Nikki Batiste is at Columbia. Nikki, good morning.
This is like blood-boiling, anger-inducing nonsense, dude. Out of all of these like Ivy League institutions, Columbia University, I think is now officially the worst of the worst. It is the worst institute of higher learning. They are so depraved. The way they went about this was so insane. It's incredible, dude. It is incredible. And it all started under the Brandon administration. Make no mistake. All of these fake anti-Semitism allegations kick-started under the Biden administration. And the Biden administration never even offered us just a semblance of protective cover to these institutes of higher learning or the students that were doing the right thing. They lied over and over again. The media lied over and over again, kept misrepresenting the positions of the students, kept lying and saying that they were actually being deeply anti-Semitic and violent when they were not. And the only thing they experienced was violence in the form of retaliation from the Zionist counter-protesters. I cannot put in the words how embarrassed I am of my degree now. I dreamed of going to Columbia since I was a kid, finally made it, and now I want nothing to do with the school. At least I graduated with no debt. Yeah. It is remarkable how bad this is. It is shocking how bad this is. Mehdi Hassan says, nothing will embolden anti-Semites more than deals like this. One foreign country getting favored and special treatment, as well as protection from criticism on college campus at the insistence of the United States government. But it's not even about anti-Semitism. That's the craziest part about this. It's not like, because anti-Semitism is a real form of bigotry, right? And it can actually, if left unchecked, it could technically create a hostile environment that would stop people from being educated properly. This is not about that at all. This has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It has everything to do with Israel. It's fucking insane. First, they whipped up fake hysteria surrounding the understandable position of many students on college campus that protested against Israel, that wanted Columbia University to decouple themselves from Israeli investment, which was never going to happen, obviously. Columbia's very own alumni that also either A, had personal investments in Israel, or B, were major, had like a deep connection to Israel, obviously retaliated in the expected aggressive manner. But what was unexpected in this process was every single already Zionist college campus presidents would get pulled in front of Congress and then go, I'm so sorry that we haven't sufficiently licked the boots of the Israeli state. I am so sorry. I apologize profusely. With this environment, Jewish graduate here, the only anti-Semitism I've had in college was from people saying I'm a self-hating Jew for standing up for Palestine. The environment was designed for someone like Donald Trump to take advantage of. They created this fake narrative that there's unimaginable anti-Semitism happening on campus, on Columbia campus grounds, and that the Columbia was not doing anything. This happened under the Biden administration. That Columbia was not properly dealing with the anti-Semitism, even though the anti-Semitism was fucking fake. Okay? And then Trump came in and used that pre-existing attitude, that pre-existing sentiment that was also propped up by the media as well, cynically and falsely, to say, hey, look at all this anti-Semitism. Look at all this anti-Semitism. Give me $200 million or else I'm shutting off your grants. Columbia caved every step of the way to the ridiculous demands that the Trump administration was making, and they just kept asking for more.
Good morning. The settlement comes as the university had been negotiating with the administration to restore its access to $400 million in federal funding. Columbia says it's agreed to pay the $200 million settlement in addition to $21 million to settle investigations brought by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The university has also agreed to a series of changes, including an independent monitor who will assess compliance with the agreement and federal laws. In a statement, Columbia said it does not admit to wrongdoing with this resolution agreement and that the institution's leaders have recognized that reform was and is needed. In March, the Trump administration canceled grants.
It's so psychotic. They're doing academic receivership. They have complete control over the Middle Eastern Studies Department. The administration does, by the way. And on top of that, Columbia literally suspended 80 students that were almost complete, that were literally waiting to receive their diplomas. So they pay $200 million in a settlement for this bullshit accusation instead of fighting it. They also revoke degrees as well. And in return for that $200 million settlement for this bullshit accusation, instead of defending themselves, okay, they're now receiving $400 million in grants in return.
Contracts over claims that the university failed to stop anti-Semitism on campus in the wake of protests against Israel's war in Gaza. The settlement comes just one day after the university said it suspended and expelled dozens of students who participated in several of those pro-Palestinian.
This is also dangerous for every other college campus because Columbia caved to the Trump administration. This is only going to embolden the Trump administration. They're going to continue pushing other campuses as well. Are y'all trying to get sued because my degree was never revoked? This is an AI generated photo of me. I don't look like this. I have several attorneys representing me. Canary Mission, suspected Columbia students expelled or degrees revoked. They're posting this like as a major W too. Like we have actual schizophrenic Israeli Knesset funded doxing groups like Canary Mission openly operating on US soil against American citizens and then having the government respond to their fucking hallucinations positively, and then they get to flex. What are we doing? What are we fucking doing? It's so insane. What's extra insane about this is that they're not even doing this like immediately after October 7th, which they did, right? They went real crazy mode on after October 7th. They had the doxing trucks ready to go on every college campus, and they were just like plastering people's personal information and claiming that they were like vicious Nazi anti-Semites all over campus. Bill Ackman was running around saying, "You'll never be hired ever again." Bill A. Packman, Bill Smokes Crackman. But post October 7th, that was the last time Israel was ever going to have any sort of favorability. It's been almost 2 years at this point of Israel doing a genocide. The idea that you can get away with behaving like this now in the eyes of the public and have the public not respond negatively to this is fucking insane. And this is a continuation of Project Esther, by the way. It 100% is. A key part of what Colombia was forced to agree to was to radically expand its hate speech codes to ban common criticisms of Israel and Jewish individuals. It has nothing to do with protests, just attacks on Americans' free speech to please Israel and its AIPAC puppets, says Glenn Greenwald. He's right. The party and Trump movement that spent a decade mocking the need for hate speech codes on campuses and flamboyantly posturing as champions of free speech and academic freedom have now forced Harvard and Columbia to adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which famously bans accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than the interests of their own nations, denying, which is, again, technically is an anti-Semitic thing to do. But it's vague. So if you use this as a way to prosecute someone, you can literally say that Shai Davide being fucking loyal to Israel is actually an anti-Semitic incident. When Shai Davide, by his own admission, cares more about Israel than anything else. Of course, Shai Davide will not be prosecuted under the IHRA definition. Anyone who says, dude, get the fuck out of here, why do you care so much about Israel, will be, though. Denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, e.g. by claiming that the existence of State of Israel is a racist endeavor. That's another IHRA definition, which is crazy. Some of the IHRA definitions are actually, some of the IHRA guidelines are actually anti-Semitic. Some of them can be vaguely misinterpreted and weaponized against people making coherent points. And then some of them are literally not anti-Semitic, like saying the existence of the State of Israel is a racist endeavor is not anti-Semitic. Because it's true. Saying that this, trying to prosecute this correct statement as an anti-Semitic canard only dilutes the power that anti-Semitism holds at all. When you say correct things are anti-Semitism, okay, uttering correct statements is actually doing anti-Semitism, you're basically saying anti-Semitism isn't bad. Applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. Ridiculous. Using the symbols and images associated with the classic anti-Semitism, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel, or to characterize Israel or Israelis. I don't really care about this. That is fucking anti-Semitic. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Again, this is not anti-Semitic. This is just the truth. Holding Jews collectively responsible for the actions of the State of Israel, ironically enough, also anti-Semitic, also conducted by liberals regularly. Except they use this as a positive when they say all Jews love Israel. Every Jew is a Zionist. Every Jew loves Israel. And Israel is doing this for all Jews. But they have it both ways, basically. I can't wait till these same laws get applied to Christianity. It becomes illegal to be gay or trans because it's anti-Christian. I mean, I've long held the belief. I have long held the belief that because of the institutional muscle that allegations of anti-Semitism have, because of its use to defend Israel, they've been allowed to operate. Like all of these supposedly Jewish advocacy groups that actually only do advocacy at the behest of the State of Israel have been allowed to operate and have been able to create a massive amount, have been able to create an environment where they can just like genuinely stop people from saying correct things about Israel by cynically weaponizing anti-Semitism allegations have a unique space in American discourse beyond anything else. The reason for that is because it is a successful, up until recently, a successful, perhaps the most successful method of stamping out any kind of discourse that is anti-Israel and that is in line with American foreign policy. Okay? Regardless of that reality, things have changed dramatically, at least in the way that people receive these kinds of allegations now. But the Trump administration is using the institutional influence that these so-called Jewish advocacy groups that are actually invested in Israel advocacy have to open up the floodgates of controlling people's speech. It's not necessarily about anti-Semitism, which we know, but it's not even necessarily about defending Israel at all. For those of you who think this is just about controlling discourse around Israel, that's the initial purpose. Sure, it's to create a chilling effect on speech and to create an environment that is dangerous for people if they don't want to suffer severe penalties, if they don't want to avoid severe repercussions for saying, fuck Israel or whatever, they better shut the fuck up, right? Like that is only the short-term goal. The long-term goal is that this opens up the door to further prosecution of speech. That much is clear. Like the case with Mahmoud Khalil is only the entry point into what the administration wants to do, both on the grounds of utilizing Mahmoud Khalil's green card status and not like full-blown citizenship status to make it so that immigrants across the board, even if they're green card holders, are actually second-class citizens that cannot be protected by the Constitution, which is, again, in and of itself unconstitutional. But it's also to say you can be prosecuted for speaking out against the state of Israel with anti-Semitism allegations. But it doesn't stop there. It is never supposed to stop there. It's not supposed to stop with anti-Semitism. It will move on to anti-Christian behavior, for example. The goal here is controlling discourse. The goal here is to eviscerate what remains of like the constitutional protections and the liberties that Americans have enjoyed as America loses its hegemonic superpower status around the globe. That's what's going on.
Demonstrations. Columbia is one of dozens of schools the Trump administration has targeted with funding cuts over claims of anti-Semitism. But Nate, it is the first to reach a settlement.
Nikki, thank you.
Columbia University is now the first school to reach a negotiated settlement with the Trump administration over claims of anti-Semitism. As part of this agreement, the university will pay more than $220 million over 3 years to settle these claims of anti-Semitism on campus. And in exchange, the Trump administration will unlock the hundreds of millions of dollars, and I will add, unrelated scientific research funding that they froze to force Columbia to try to bend to its demands. And also as part of the deal, Columbia is not required to admit wrongdoing. The school saying this, that the institution's leaders have recognized repeatedly that Jewish students and faculty have experienced painful, unacceptable incidents and that reform was and is needed. President Trump celebrated the deal overnight, posting this in part. I also want to thank and commend Columbia University for agreeing to do what is right. I look forward to watching them have a great future in our country, maybe greater than ever before. Joining us here in studio for her first TV interview since announcing the settlement is the acting president of Columbia University, Claire Shipman. Thank you so much for being here.
Something to remember, by the way, while the media is, hyper-focusing on college campus panic again and anti-Semitism allegations on college campuses, which is their favorite thing to cover all the time. And they did play a formative role in this becoming a major fixture of American discourse surrounding the genocide of the Palestinians that Israel is committed to. Is that the genocide is continuing. Israel is actively, deliberately starving the entire Palestinian population, which is majority children, by the way. There are children dying every day due to famine. The only way for the Palestinian population to receive aid is a scheme that the Israeli and the American government created together called the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. It's riddled with so much scandal that even the New York Times is reporting on it now. Now, of course, I listened to the New York Times reporting on this when I listened to the Daily this morning, and it was, of course, I was still filled with blood-curdling rage because they did their very best to avoid saying it's a genocide or avoid talking about like how the starvation policies were deliberate. But even then, there is an acknowledgement of the harrowing conditions that Israel has placed upon the Palestinian population. And yet the media is still focusing on this shit.
Of course, Kate, good morning.
And I'm covering it too, obviously. But there is an appropriate way to cover it. And mainstream is not covering it in the appropriate way. Because the appropriate way to cover it is to say, this is fucking bullshit. There is no real major anti-Semitism explosion on college campuses, and it was simply anti-Israel sentiment and anti-Israel protests, which is perfectly valid because Israel is a Nazi state doing a fucking Holocaust in broad daylight. That is the appropriate way to cover the story.
This is a very big moment for the school and for higher education and its relationship with the federal government.
Absolutely.
What was it that it was negotiated for quite some time? What was it that got this over the finish line?
So many things. Look, I think in the biggest possible of pictures, this resolution is really going to allow us to turn a page on a period of deep instability for our institution. I think, as you mentioned, it took us months of a lot of conversations, deep deliberation, and almost word by word negotiation. And it was always, we were willing to talk as long as the talks were productive. It took longer in many cases than we had anticipated, but we were willing to keep moving because the stakes were so high. And I think there are a couple of really important things about this agreement from our point of view. One, it doesn't cross the red lines that we laid out. It protects our academic integrity. That was, of course, essential to us.
Yeah, no, totally. What they mean is it didn't cross our red lines because we too also fucking hate these pesky students that wanted us to divest from Israel when we have too many financial entanglements with the big, beautiful, bold, brave, most moral nation state of Israel. And our alumni certainly weren't happy either. As you all saw the text messages in the WhatsApp groups. And they even said that they would actually stop funding our endowment. So we wanted to take action regardless. So now the government forced our hand. They folded it in advance, and then the government asked for even more in the process. Fuck them.
And two, it does reset our relationship with the federal government in terms of research funding. And that's, there's many headlines about foreign.
Guys, this is quite literally, this is exactly the same thing that the German deans did when the Nazi government came to their doorstep and said, fire all the Jews. Like that literally, this is verbatim. Where is that article? I know Megaphonics sent that to me a while back, and I've read it a couple times at this point. But this is fucking-batum, the exact same thing. No, not this. No. It was like a Holocaust Foundation article or something. I don't know. I want to read it again. But yeah, no, this is when Columbia University expelled Robert Burke for anti-Nazi protests in 1936. This is it. Controlling the universities. Germany's 1933 civil service law applied to university professors as well as elementary and secondary school teachers. It was not difficult for the Nazis to win the support of many university professors, administrators, and students. At the time, a majority of them backed conservative political parties that were hostile to the Weimar Republic. Many university professors immediately welcomed the Nazi government in 1933. Many student fraternities and other student groups have already banned Jews and regularly protested against professors they believed did not support supposed traditional German values. Scholars who were Jewish or supported left-leaning parties struggled to find research and teaching positions in public government-supported German universities and often worked in private ones instead. With the passage of the new law, the Nazis attempted to root out any dissent to their policies and ideology that remained in German higher education. 1933, Peter Drucker, an Austrian economist, was then a lecturer at Frankfurt University. Fearful of Hitler's plans for Germany, he was prepared to leave the country but hoped that it would not be necessary to do so. The first Nazi-led faculty meeting at the university convinced them otherwise. Frankfurt was the first university the Nazis tackled, precisely because it was the most self-confidently liberal of major German universities, the Frankfurt School. With a faculty that prided itself on its allegiance to scholarship, freedom of conscience, and democracy, the Nazis knew that control of Frankfurt University would mean control of German academia. And so did everyone at the university. Above all, Frankfurt had a science faculty distinguished both by its scholarship and by its liberal convictions. And outstanding among the Frankfurt scientists was a biochemist, physiologist of Nobel Prize caliber and an impeccable liberal credentials. When the appointment of a Nazi commissar, academic receivership, was announced, every teacher and graduate assistant at the university was summoned to a faculty meeting to hear this new master. Everybody knew that a trial of strength was at hand. I had never before attended a faculty meeting, but I did attend this one. The new Nazi commissar wasted no time on the amenities. He immediately announced that Jews would be forbidden to enter the university premises and would be dismissed without salary on March 15th. This was something that no one had thought possible, despite the Nazis' loud anti-Semitism. Then he launched into a tirade of abuse, filth, and four-letter words, such as had been heard rarely even in the barracks and never before in academia. He pointed his finger at one department chairman and another and said, "You either do what I tell you or we'll put you in a concentration camp." There was silence when he finished. Everybody waited for the distinguished biochemist physiologist. The great liberal got up, cleared his throat, and said, "This part is very illuminating. Very interesting, Mr. Commissar, and in some respects, very illuminating. But one point I didn't get to clearly, will there be more money for research in physiology?" That's Columbia campus today, 2025. It is verbatim what she just said on CNN. I'm going to run it back.
One, it doesn't cross the red lines that we laid out. It protects our academic integrity. That was, of course, essential to us. And two, it does reset our relationship with the federal government in terms of research funding. And that's, there's many headlines about $400 million. This is really access to billions.
It was a lot more than that.
Billions of dollars in future funding. And it's not just money for Columbia. I mean, this is about science. It's about curing.
It seems that the funding for research in physiology has been secured. That's it. That's it. And the irony here of what this lie that this acting president of Columbia University, Claire Shipman, is saying is that this actually is incredibly harmful to academia. Because the Trump administration, predictably, once they got their fucking blood from Columbia, is going to move on to others. Here is wife of Vince McMahon, our education secretary, on Fox News. Let's hear what she had to say about this.
Achievement. We're going to make sure that this is not just a short-term recognition and fix, but this is a long-term effect on Columbia. And we're really hopeful that this particular settlement agreement is going to be a template for other universities to follow, because I think it really does do what so many of us have looked at for our universities across the country for a long time, in saying that the viewpoints need to be balanced. This goes a long way towards that. And I'm just really pleased for the president. I'm really pleased for the students and the faculty at Columbia. I commend President Shipman for her part in the negotiations, for the conversations that she and I had, and the visits. And so it was good on both sides. And Columbia is, I believe, very serious about this. They're bored. And we welcome the changes.
Well, and congratulations again. Incredible work on your part, Secretary.
So Columbia actually is not only destroying its own reputation and its own freedom, its own integrity, its own interest in continuing to do academic research, continue and is allowing the Trump administration to completely take control over the Middle Eastern Studies Department, for the record, and even implement certain guidelines and certain boundaries, such as forcing the students to go through re-education, social re-education, if they are not sufficiently pro-Israel. Okay? Isn't that crazy? Yeah, don't let this get lost in the noise. Colombia just inked a deal with the federal government to trigger ICE abduction when an international student gets arrested for any reason. Deeply concerning part of Colombia's capitulation to Trump, foreign students arrested at protests can now be detained by ICE regardless of whether the university's admin punishes them. Significant escalation of efforts to chill speech and protest activity by non-citizen students. There's also a provision in there that makes it so that Columbia University has to do like some kind of re-education for students that are not sufficiently pro-Israel. And the Middle Eastern Studies Department is now under academic receivership, which implies that they are not allowed. Yeah, Columbia will develop training materials to socialize all students to campus norms and values more broadly. Yeah, Columbia will undertake a comprehensive review of its international admissions processes and policies and will ensure that international student applicants are asked questions designed to elicit their reasons for wishing to study in the United States. Good excuse for Canary Mission and Baytar to collude with Columbia to abduct more students. The exchange visitor program and comply with all requests for immigration information consistent with the requirement of the program. Columbia will promptly provide the United States, upon request, with all disciplinary actions involving student visa holders resulting in expulsions or suspensions. So you can now get deported instantly if there is any sort of there's your academic records are now there. Your academic records can be used for deportation now. Why would you even go to Colombia now? I recommend people don't do that, but you know there's still some semblance of prestige, and I'm sure people will still very much love to go to Columbia University. I think it's an evil institution.
Cancer.
Columbia's admissions have gone down by 11% in the last year, of course.
Cutting edge, boundary breaking science that actually benefits the country and humanity. So that was essential.
How existential was the threat becoming? When you talk about, I mean, I saw over like $1.3 billion that the school was not losing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How existential was this threat to the university if it continued?
There are lots of ways to measure it. So $1.3 billion.
Also, Jerry Nadler has stated, who is the co-chair of the Congressional Jewish Caucus, Representative Jerry Nadler, calls Columbia's settlement with Trump admin embarrassing. This disgraceful and humiliating action will not in any way improve the situation on campus for Jewish students. Today, Congressman Gerald Nadler issued the following statement on Columbia University's $200 million settlement. I am deeply disappointed by reports of Columbia University's outrageous and embarrassing $200 million capitulation of the Trump administration's repugnant extortion campaign. Let's be clear. No investigation was ever conducted by the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights, the single body charged under federal law with investigating anti-Semitism on campus. Rather, unlike Harvard, my alma mater has allowed a once highly respected institution to succumb to the Trump administration's coercive and exploitative tactics. I'm starting to get Nadler pilled, first Zoran and now this. I know he's an Israel supporter, but it's pretty good regardless. Yeah. I know the bar is fucking firmly planted in hell, so obviously Nadler is one of the people that clear it, which is unexpected because I just don't expect any politician to clear this fucking incredibly low bar, regardless of how fucking low it is. And he has consistently cleared it. Columbia has effectively waved the white flag of surrender in its battle at the heart of the Trump administration's war on higher education and academic reform. While Columbia needs to do a better job of protecting its students against anti-Semitism on campus, this disgraceful and humiliating action will not in any way improve the situation on campus for Jewish students. Columbia students, faculty, staff, and larger community deserve better than this cowardly decision. Ironically enough, once again, this is, of course, doing, not Nadler's statement, but like Columbia's actions, ironically, add to the fucking pile-on. It creates an environment where people go, why do Jews and the Jewish state get to have this level of control over freedom of speech in America? Because even the most selfish American that does not give a fuck about however many brown children are slaughtered over there still cares about being able to say whatever the fuck they want. They made Israeli a race at Columbia and paid $200 million for it. Those measures include adopting the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance controversial definition of anti-Semitism, which some critics said conflates criticism of Israel with anti-Jewish hate, and partnering with multiple Jewish and pro-Israel groups. Columbia has also pledged zero tolerance for discrimination and harassment based on protected traits, including Jewish and Israeli identity. Great. More conflation. More legal, codified conflation of Israel, a fucking neo-Nazi state that is roundly despised by virtually every fucking person in America at this point, with Judaism. This just like exists in my mind. This statement, very interesting, Mr. Commissar, and in some respects very illuminating. But one point I didn't get too clearly: will there be more money for research in physiology? Like, that lives in my fucking mind permanently. I think about it all the time. 1933, Frankfurt School in Nazi Germany. 2025, Columbia University in New York City. Exact same attitude.
A year, billions in future funding. But we are a massive research institution, one of the best in the world. It's hard. We'd have to sit here for hours for me to tell you everything we do in terms of that boundary breaking research. And that's research really that powers the technology in this country, innovation, and of course, all the biomedical research that so many people benefit from. So I think the stakes were high for us in terms of what we do. And by the way, for our students also, we're an incredible training ground for the future of science. But I think it's...
So how long until you get banned and all pro-Palestine creators by that standard, given that if universities are forced to capitulate enthusiastically, what is stopping Bezos from doing the same? I mean, they're too busy with the fucking educational institutes because it melds the young minds of this country that will be future leaders of this country before they move on to social media shit.
Fair to say they're existential broadly.
Also, social media already has like fairly rigorous, or used to have fairly rigorous standards surrounding anti-Semitism, like actual anti-Semitism, not fucking, anti-Israel sentiment. So we'll see how far they'll go. But remember, the Trump base of support, this is like Epstein for them, okay? Coming after social media and sanitizing speech on social media is one of the most powerful forces that has consistently galvanized the Trump base of support. Like that plays a big role in their minds. So if the Trump administration turns around and starts doing this for a deeply unpopular position, defending Israel unconditionally, they're gonna get reactions. It'll turn into like the Epstein situation where the base will actually push back aggressively. Also, I don't think Jeff Bezos or other major tech companies give a fuck because they don't rely on institutional donors that are either Israeli or have financial interest in continuing a relationship with Israel in the same way that Columbia's endowments play a major role. I guess the only thing that they could shut off is like potentially government contracts, which is literally how they came after Columbia as well.
For science in this country as well. We have to get that funding back on track.
Was the president himself personally involved in the negotiations at any point?
I don't have, he was certainly not personally involved in any negotiations that I was part of, and I don't really have a sense as to how involved he was. But I do think he was keeping track of what was going on.
Oh, God, I can't even fucking... Here is a white nationalist turned liberal, Richard Hanania, who is literally fucking pro-Israel, by the way. So even though he's of Palestinian descent, an enigma. Even he is fucking criticizing Columbia by showing the excerpt from the New York Times piece that I will read now. To settle civil rights claims against the university for allegedly failing to protect students from anti-Semitic harassment, Columbia will pay a fine of $200 million. We already know that. To the government in 3 years, in 3 annual installments. Columbia also agrees to abide by its pledges it made in March to Trump to reduce anti-Semitism, rein in protests on campus. Among them, Columbia will keep its new senior vice provost, who will review Columbia's regional studies programs, including their leadership and curricula, starting with the university's Middle East programs. It won't end there, but that's where it's starting. Columbia will appoint new faculty who have affiliations with the Institute for Israel and Jewish Studies and other departments. The university will maintain restrictions that bar students from protesting inside academic buildings. It will require demonstrators wearing masks to show identification when asked. Columbia also agrees to employ some public safety officers with arrest powers. To further support Jewish life on campus, Columbia will add an administrator to serve as a liaison to students experiencing anti-Semitism issues. Richard Hanania is a fucking straight-up neo-Nazi himself, now winning favor with the liberal intelligentsia for some fucking weird reason. Well, I guess the weird reason is that liberals are also pretty fucking racist, and they don't really give a shit. I mean, he is straight up written under a different name, like openly white supremacist things. And up until like, I think a couple months ago was still saying openly white supremacist things. He is obsessed with race and IQ. And yeah, I don't know. He's also of Palestinian descent, ironically enough, and he's a major Israel defender. Why Israel? They don't do this for any other minority communities. I told you this already. I've said this many times over. It's not because our politicians are either like hypnotized by Jewish mind control or because they have like a Mossad blackmail or anything like that. Or the most laughable reason, because they really care about anti-Semitism. None of those things are the real reason why they do this for Israel. The real reason why they do this for Israel is because the Israel lobby and influence peddling operation that Israel has crafted, that is a multi-billion-dollar operation, corresponds to American foreign policy, American interests in the region. If there was a similar settler colonial operation in a resource-rich region that America was tied at the hip with, they could use identity politics of this sort to defend that settler colony. You would see, a similar thing for that as well over the course of many, many years. Of course, it would have to become this powerful instrument of American foreign policy. When the worst dogs are agreeing, know that you are on the right side. The genocide charge is blood libel. Thank you, Major Spencer, for this withering deconstruction. I'm a war scholar, says John Spencer of the War Institute. I'm a war scholar. There's no genocide in Gaza. Well, you're not a genocide scholar. You're a war scholar. Shut the fuck up. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. goes, the genocide charge is a blood libel. Thank you, Major Spencer, for the withering deconstruction. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is like the funniest of all of the anti-Semites in charge right now because he is, one, insanely openly anti-Semitic, and two, insanely openly pro-Israel. It's fucking hilarious. Remember, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. literally said that COVID was an Ashkenazi Jewish Chinese operation. It was like bioterrorism created by specifically Ashkenazi Jews alongside the Chinese. Like, that is how fucking anti-Semitic he is. He's so anti-Semitic in both his private and public affairs, pre and post his new position, that so many of these conspiracy theorists have literally been like, oh no, you don't understand. He was actually based. He's just being blackmailed by Israel. He's based, but he's just being blackmailed by Israel. Remember when they were like, please, even if you were like caught on camera doing horrible shit, we won't care. We won't care, RFK Jr. Please just reveal the blackmail, and then you no longer have to be threatened by said blackmail. We won't hate you. Katie Halper, yes, Israeli-American genocide scholar Omar Bartov and Ross Segal and Holocaust survivor and Human Rights Watch founder Arya Nair are spreading blood libel. You really nailed it. Glad you agree, says John Spencer. Katie Halper, who is Jewish herself and an anti-Zionist, pointing to other prominent Jewish Holocaust scholars and Holocaust survivors that are also saying that Israel is doing a genocide. And of course, Christians, John Spencer is like, nah, that is blood libel. Shut up, Jew. I know better than you. It's so funny. To see the audacity of Christian Zionists who, I guess at this point, have been given permission by Jewish Zionists to feel as though Zionism is a higher state of Judaism than being an actual Jew. It's just like, that's why you see it so much. You see it all over America, where evangelical Zionists and just Zionists who are Christian, of Christian background, unironically will tell straight up Jewish people that they're bad Jews and that they should shut the fuck up because they know better. Anyway, I'm moving on from this Colombia shit. It's pissing me off. Let's talk about France.